So have your hands and eyes looking up at the smartboard. Today we're going to be talking about biomes. You have a new learning target. With this unit, you should be able to describe how temperature and precipitation determines a biome. And with each of the biomes that we're going to be discussing, you should be able to tell me the temperature and how much precipitation each of those biomes get. You're going to be an expert in one particular biome because of the project that we're doing in class, but you still need to know at least the temperature and precipitation for each of the biomes. So we'll be doing overviews of all of the biomes. So let's go ahead and get started. A biome is a group of land ecosystems with similar climates and organisms. Now, climate is made up of temperature, and the precipitation. So a biome is essentially a way that the world is organized, and they're organized by how much precipitation it receives and what the temperature is. And you'll notice that in your book as you go through, it'll have like a little map that shows highlighted areas of the specific biome that we're discussing at that time. So there are 6 major biomes. Okay, 6 major biomes. We're going to talk about the rainforests, we're going to talk about the desert, the grassland, the boreal forest, or the taiga. We're going to talk about the deciduous forest, and also the tundra. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started talking about the rainforest. Now, there are 2 types of rainforest. You probably didn't realize that there are 2. You probably only heard of one, but there are actually 2 types. It's the temperate, which is the lesser known rainforest, and the tropical rainforest, which is the one you've probably heard of before. So let's talk about first the temperate rainforest. Okay, temperate, that word actually means means moderate. Okay, so in the temperate rainforest, you're having moderate temperatures. So moderate means in the middle. And when we talk about moderate temperatures, means not too hot, not too cold. So not too hot or cold. It's just going to be in the middle with those temperatures. And it's located on the northwestern coast of the United States. So you would find temperate rainforest in Washington State, Oregon, and maybe even a little bit in Northern California. And a temperate rainforest receives more than 300 centimeters of rain per year. So that's a huge amount of rain. And we also have very, very large trees that grow there, like cedars, redwoods, and Douglas fir trees. Here's an example of a giant redwood tree that you might find in a temperate rainforest. This tree is so large that they have to cut tunnels into the tree trunk so that cars can drive through like this national park. think it says that the height of this tree is 525 feet. So these trees are very, very large, and that's what's making up a temperate rainforest. We also have the tropical rainforest, which you probably know more about. Okay, and a tropical rainforest is located in regions close to the equator. Now the equator gets about 12 hours of sun all day, every day. It doesn't vary like it does here in Ohio, where in the winter you don't get quite as much sun as you would in the summer. And the equator, they have 12 hours of sun and it doesn't really change throughout the year. So that means that the climate is warm and humid all year because there's a lot of rain and that's what causes the humidity. We know it's warm because of the equator, because it's getting 12 hours of sun every day, and it's humid because humidity measures the amount of water that's in the air. There's also a variety of plants that grow in the tropical rainforest because of the climate. And the trees in the rainforest form several distinct layers. So the tall trees form a leafy roof, which is called a canopy. And below the canopy, there is a second layer of shorter trees and vines that form what's called the understory. The understory. So think it's under the canopy, the understory. So let's take a look at what the canopy looks like. Okay, this is a picture of the tropical rainforest canopy. We know that the trees are growing so tall so that they can actually get some of the sunlight that they need to go through photosynthesis to make their own food. There's so many trees that are so close together, they're really struggling to find the resources that they need to survive, and that's how you get that canopy that's growing all close together. This is an aerial view, which means it's from an airplane. If you look through, you could hardly ever see any of the ground because that canopy is formed like a roof leafy layer that you just can't see through. Now the understory, that has shorter trees and vines, and it would look like this. Now how do they survive? Well, the understory plants grow well in the shade, which is good because they have a lot of shade because there's not a lot of sunlight that can get through the canopy. So the understory plants grow well in the shade formed by the canopy. But the forest floor is nearly dark. So few plants can live there because producers have to be able to have that sunlight to perform photosynthesis, and that way they can make their own food. If there's not sunlight, then they're not going to be able to live. So that's why there are very few plants that live there. Now, something that's interesting about the tropical rainforest is that it only covers a very small part of the planet, but they probably contain more species of plants and animals than all other biomes combined. So think about that. It's the smallest part of all the biomes, but it has more species of animals and plants than all the other 5 biomes combined. So if you're in a rainforest, you would probably see a tremendous amount of wildlife and also many different species of plants you've never even seen before. It makes the rainforest a really unique place to go. The next biome we're going to talk about is the desert biome, which is almost the complete opposite of your rainforest. Now, a desert is an area that receives less than 25 centimeters of rain per year. And the amount of evaporation in the desert is greater than the amount of precipitation. So precipitation is rain in the desert, but the amount of evaporation, that's when the liquid transforms into a gas, is more than precipitation. What does that mean? Well, it means that even if it tries to rain in the desert, more often than not, it evaporates, turns to a gas before the rain ever touches the ground. And that's just because the desert is scorching hot in the day, but it does cool off rapidly at night. So it cools rapidly at night. Sometimes it's 100, 110, 115 degrees during the day, but it could cool down to between 40 or 50 at nighttime. So that's like a 60-degree drop in temperature within a matter of a few hours. That's very extreme. And the organisms that live in the desert must be adapted to the lack of rain and the extreme temperatures. So, for example, the saguaro cactus has folds that work like the pleats in an accordion. So what does an accordion look like? Well, you might have seen one on TV or on a cartoon before. This is an accordion, and that part with the pleats goes in and out. Well, the saguaro cactus has folds that work like those pleats in the accordion, and then they expand to store water when it is raining. So it expands to store water when it is raining. So let's take a look at a saguaro cactus. You know what that looks like? Okay, you can see it has those like ridges. Those are those pleats. Okay, and they expand to store the water. So if you see one that's kind of a shriveled saguaro cactus, then you know, oh, it really needs some water. This one looks like it's kind of expanded, so maybe it has stored enough water for it to survive for a while. Now, how do other animals cope? Well, they adapt by burrowing underground to protect it from the hot summer rays or sun's rays, or they are nocturnal, which means that they're active at night because it's a lot cooler at nighttime. Another term that you need to know is diurnal. And diurnal means active during the day. So diurnal means active during the day. Okay, this is the end of part 1. Feel free to rewind anything that you need to listen to again. And if you need to go on to part 2, please look for that part 2. We'll start with the grasslands. Thanks for listening.